was a stormy night, and I found myself alone in our old, creaky house. My parents were away for the weekend, and I had the whole place to myself. The wind howled outside, occasionally rattling the windows, a sound I tried to ignore as I settled on the couch with a book. Then, I heard it. A soft, almost imperceptible tap-tap-tapping. At first, I brushed it off as the wind playing tricks, but the sound persisted, growing slightly louder, more insistent. It seemed to be coming from the back door. I hesitated, my heart pounding. Everything I'd heard about home safety screamed at me not to open the door, but the tapping wouldn't stop. Gathering my courage, I decided to investigate. I crept towards the back door, the old wooden floorboards creaking under my feet. Through the glass, I could see a shadowy figure. My blood ran cold. I thought about calling the police, but what if it was just a neighbor needing help? I opened the door a crack, ready to slam it shut at any moment. "Hello?" I called out timidly. No response, just the sound of the wind and rain. I squinted into the darkness, trying to make out the figure's features, but it was too obscured by the shadows. The tapping had stopped, but now there was a scratching sound, like nails against the wooden doorframe. Fear gripped me. I closed the door quickly and locked it, heart racing. I checked all the windows and doors, making sure everything was secure. That's when I heard a thud upstairs. My mind raced with possibilities. Could someone have gotten in earlier? Were they hiding in the house waiting for me to let my guard down? I grabbed a flashlight and a baseball bat, my only weapons. As I slowly ascended the stairs, each step creaked ominously under my weight. The thuds became more frequent, now accompanied by a dragging sound. I reached the top of the stairs, my breaths shallow and quick. The noise was coming from my parents' room. The door was ajar, swaying slightly. I pushed it open with the bat, ready to confront whatever was there. The room was empty, but the window was open, curtains billowing in the stormy wind. Had the wind opened it, or something else? As I moved to close it, a shadow darted across the room's corner. I swung the bat instinctively, but hit nothing. Heart in my throat, I turned around, scanning the room. There. Under the bed, a pair of glowing eyes stared back at me. I froze, the bat slipping from my grasp. The eyes blinked, and then, to my utter disbelief, a cat astray I'd seen around the neighborhood emerged, meowing pitifully. Relief washed over me in an almost laughable way. The cat must have snuck in when I opened the door. The noises upstairs were just it exploring its newfound shelter. I laughed, a mix of relief and residual fear as I picked up the cat, promising it a warm place to stay for the night. The rest of the night passed uneventfully, but the tapping, the shadow, and the mysterious noises had left their mark. Even with the innocent explanation, the house felt different, as if the storm had brought with it a reminder of how quickly safety can turn to fear when you're alone in the dark. In late winter, I found myself home alone for a weekend, as my family had gone away skiing to take advantage of the snowfall. I wasn't up for the trip, so the solitude was welcome. Our house, a modern structure with large windows and minimalist design, usually felt cozy, but that night, it felt unusually hollow and echoing. As I settled in for the evening, a heavy rain began. The world outside turned into a blur, the leaves swirling furiously in the wind. It was almost hypnotic to watch, but as darkness fell, a sense of unease crept over me. Then the power flickered and went out. The house plunged into darkness, the only light now coming from the ghostly glow of the moon outside. I fumbled for my phone, using it as a flashlight, and made my way to the kitchen for candles and matches. Just as I lit a candle, I heard a noise. It was a faint thumping sound, rhythmic and persistent, coming from the second floor. My heart skipped a beat. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe the wind was knocking something against the house. The sound was too deliberate, too regular for that. I decided to investigate, clutching the candle like a lifeline as I ascended the stairs. The thumping grew louder, more urgent. It was coming from my bedroom. I hesitated at the door, my mind racing with possibilities of what could be inside. Swallowing my fear, I pushed the door open. The room was as I'd left it, but the window was vibrating slightly, the source of the thumping noise. Relieved, I moved to secure it. But as I did, I saw footprints in the snow on the ground, leading up to the house. They were fresh, with no returning path. Panic set in. Someone was outside and they had been watching me. I quickly shut and locked the window, backing away. That's when the power returned, flooding the house with light. Every horror movie I'd ever seen flashed through my mind. I should call the police, but my phone was downstairs. I grabbed a pair of scissors from my desk, the only weapon at hand. Started moving to my phone, my hands shaking. I slowly moved through the house, stepping carefully to not raise any sounds, my hand ready to strike. At the bottom of the stairs was a closet, perfect hiding place. I flung the door open, ready to attack. Clothes and boxes tumbled out, but there was no one there. Then, just as I was about to sigh in relief, a hand clamped down on my shoulder from behind. I screamed and spun around, scissors raised. It was my neighbor, looking pale and frightened. I quickly explained that he'd come to check on me, knowing I was alone. I'd seen the footprints too and entered through the unlocked back door, ready to defend me. Together, we called the police. They arrived quickly, finding tracks around the house. It seemed someone had been lurking, watching, perhaps waiting for an opportunity to break in. The incident left me shaken, but grateful for my neighbor's timely intervention. That night, as I lay in bed, listening to the sound of the wind and the occasional creak of the house settling, I realized how vulnerable and isolated one can feel, even in their own home. The thought of someone watching, waiting in the darkness, was a chilling reminder that sometimes fear finds you, even in the safety of your own sanctuary. Alone for the weekend, I decided to indulge in a peaceful retreat at my family's remote cabin, nestled deep in the woods. It was the perfect escape from the bustle of city life, a place where I could relax, read, and enjoy the serenity of nature. Little did I know this tranquility was about to be shattered. The first night was blissfully quiet. I spent it reading by the fireplace, the only sounds being the crackling of the fire and the distant hooting of an owl. It was the kind of silence you could only find miles away from civilization. However, as I prepared for bed, a faint scratching sound caught my attention. It seemed to be coming from outside, perhaps a raccoon or a squirrel on the roof. I shrugged it off as a common occurrence in the woods and drifted off to sleep. The next morning, I found strange marks on the wooden door. They looked like scratches, but were too deliberate, forming strange, almost symbol-like patterns. Unease settled in my stomach, but I rationalized it as a curious animal's handiwork. That evening, the feeling of being watched crept over me. Shadows danced in the corners of my eyes, and every small noise made me jump. I tried to laugh off my growing fear, blaming it on too many horror movies. Then, the power went out. The cabin plunged into darkness, a darkness that felt heavy, almost suffocating. I fumbled for my phone, its light a small beacon in the oppressive blackness. My heart pounded as I remembered the nearest neighbor was miles away. As I reached for candles and matches, a loud bang echoed from the back of the cabin. It sounded like something, or someone, had slammed against the wall. My mind raced with panic. I was completely isolated. If someone was out there, I had nowhere to run. I locked myself in the bedroom, pushing a dresser against the door. The noises continued. Thuds, scratches, whispers. It felt like a siege, an invisible force trying to infiltrate my sanctuary. Hours passed, each noise amplifying my fear. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, it stopped. The silence was deafening. I didn't dare move until the first light of dawn crept through the curtains. Exhausted and wary, I ventured outside. The ground was undisturbed, snow untouched except for my own footprints. The door's scratches seemed deeper, more menacing in the morning light, but there was no sign of anyone or anything else. Confused and shaken, I packed my things and left the cabin as quickly as I could. The drive back to the city was a blur, my mind still grappling with the events of the night. The experience at the cabin remained with me, a haunting memory that questioned reality. Was it a person? A creature? Or just my imagination fueled by isolation? The answer remained elusive. But one thing was clear. Sometimes being alone can turn the familiar into something terrifying.